episode of the Corporate Escapists TV show and podcast. I am delighted to have the very beautiful Billie. Welcome, beautiful, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here, and I feel like I've been waiting forever.
No, so we literally were at an event on the weekend together, so which was great. So we got to catch up, so we can sort of bypass all of the, all of that stuff, which is fantastic. We've got so much that there's actually so many questions that I want to talk about. And most people know that I get super carried away, so I'm just going to pause for a moment. And I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce yourself, beautiful, and then we can dive into some amazing questions to really inspire people today.
Okay, cool. So if you've never met me before, my name is Billie. I own 5 businesses, and most people ask me, are they in the same industry? They kind of aren't. So I have a business, which is this one now that I'm in, which is just coaching and public speaking and that type of thing. It's specifically business coaching. And then I own a marketing agency, a handyman electrical business, a cleaning and yard maintenance business, and we're building an app for scheduling for service-based businesses. It feels like an absolute mouthful. I live in Brisbane on acreage, and we also homeschool. And I have 8-year-old daughter. So yeah.
I love it. I love that you're multi-passionate because I was just having this conversation before because so many people go, Christine, you just need to niche down. Like, but when we are multi-passionate, I feel like if you niche down, you actually lose the creativity and that excitement for your business. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually, I don't niche down ever across anything. I think that when you niche down as well, you are niching down on your audiences, and people are like, well, you need to target a certain audience, which I agree. When in marketing, you need to speak to one person, but that just means you need to have multiple posts and speak to, or multiple ads and speak to those different types of people. It doesn't mean you need to niche down your business. And I think if you look at the core of every single one of our businesses, we help people, whether that's by giving them a clean home, a tidy garden, great electrical work, a data network that works for them, ease of processes, creating those businesses that everybody loves. We help people, right? So that is my niche at the end of the day. I help a lot of different people, but I help people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's always going to be that common thread. And have you found it's really like your natural talent that sort of has sort of shined through going, well, that's why you're doing these businesses. Like you are naturally are a helper. Like you
Yeah,
want to
I
help.
really am. So I think if I look back when I was at school, I really wanted to be a plastic surgeon that traveled to third world countries to help disadvantaged children. That's what I really wanted to do. And then my life took a really weird turn as a teenager, and that was no longer a possibility for me. So it's interesting, though, when I look back and think that all I wanted to do was help people then, and all I still want to do is help people now. So nothing's really changed.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When obviously running multiple businesses, because even when people are running one business, they're like get overwhelmed by making things look all so pretty and all that sort of stuff. I mean, as somebody who runs multiple businesses, what are some of the key things that every business owner should be focusing on every single day?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to note as well, although we own a lot of different businesses, I don't work in each of them every single day. The only business I work in every single day is my coaching business. That is my business. It's what really fills my cup. We have business managers throughout all of them. So I think it's important, and this is a key takeaway for that, is you need to work on your business, not always in it. And I think it's really tricky because I deal with a lot of trade-based businesses as well, like mum and dad, husband and wife teams. And they're constantly just getting pulled into that daily struggle or that daily grind. And I think a lot of us feel that, right? It's like, oh, but this has to get done or this needs to get done. Well, let me tell you this. If you don't work on your business, it doesn't grow. So it has to get done. Like you have to make it a priority. I will like schedule a weekend away at the Hilton, an executive club, and do business planning. Like literally, the other place I love to go, which is really random, is the Treasury Casino in Brisbane. All of their rooms, like if you book an old casino room, they're underground, right? There's no disturbance. There's people like, but you're at the casino. I'm like, no, I literally don't leave the room. Like I don't go to the pool. I don't go anywhere. Their room service is incredible. And I just spend 3 days in a closed room just planning, right?
Yeah.
And you have to make time for it.
Yes, absolutely. I think like planning for me was one of those tasks like going, well, how far advance do you plan? You know,
Yeah.
what is the goal? And sometimes it's like month by month, and sometimes I will sit down and I will do a good solid 6 months.
Yeah.
But what I've also found is that as the business grows, I grow, so those plans also change as
Change.
well.
Exactly. So I'll always set goals for kind of 12 months. And like if you achieve them sooner, great, right? Like that's not a big deal. But if I'm planning, doing business planning, I do a 3 month plan with month to month because I find 3 months goes really quickly. And by the time you get to the end of the 3 months, you'll either be like, wow, I've already achieved all of that, or I haven't even got through month one of what I was supposed to get to. Now, if that's you and you don't get through month one, you're not prioritizing the plan. You're getting too dragged back into that daily grind. So you then have to be like, okay, set one day a week aside. If you're already working 5 days a week, be like, what's the least busy day in the office? Is it a Monday? Can I spend 4 hours on a Monday to reevaluate my goals and make sure that we have things that are actionable this week to achieve those goals? Nothing happens without action. It's great. You can have the best goals in the world. You can have the best mindset. You can be calling everything in, like all of those things. But if you aren't actioning anything, you aren't moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It's why I came up with the quote dreams plus action equal reality, because the key thing, like all the manifesting books are like, oh, you got to visualize and all that. But if you're not taking that aligned action, like
Yeah.
actually doing it, nothing is going to just get handed to you on a silver platter.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. What's one of the biggest sort of myths that you've heard? Obviously, being in business, I hear so many things, from people. Like, what's one
Yeah.
of the biggest myths that you've heard that, we just need to squash today?
Yeah, I feel like probably the biggest one is you have to work hard, right? You have to work hard to be successful. Now, I think there's different versions of working hard and what that looks like for every single person. But if you're feeling burnt out or overwhelmed, that's not hard work. Like that's you're not working hard, right? So I also believe that you do have to sacrifice to be successful, but you get to choose those things you sacrifice. And they're things that you probably don't even care about sacrificing. I love to use the example of before we homeschooled, to get Bella to and from school, it was like 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back, and then in the afternoon, 20 minutes from back. So it's what, like an hour and a half of my day gone just from driving her to and from school. And I get no enjoyment out of that. Like absolutely none. Does not fill my cup at all. Like it just to me, it was such a mundane task. So the first thing I did was like, no, if I brought somebody on or found somebody to take her to and from school every day, that would be an hour and a half I get back. It means I'm finished by 3 p.m. I get to meet her at the door when she arrives home. I'm not at my computer saying, I'll just finish, I'll just finish. I get to have a genuine connection with her. I get to go and make snacks with her, play outside, do all those things because I sacrificed that hour and a half of traveling to and from school. When in reality, it wasn't a huge sacrifice for me because I didn't like doing it anyway,
Yeah.
right? But they're the type of sacrifices that you need to look at your day and just like, what can go? What am I doing because everybody else expects me to be doing it? And what do I actually need to be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've just ordered food, like foods that comes every week because I do not
Yeah.
enjoy cooking. I'm like, why am I like getting so stressed out? And then I would just eat junk food anyway because I don't enjoy the process. So I think that's the most important thing. Like, look at your tasks and go,
Yeah.
well, what can you outsource with it? And I think a lot of people go, oh, well, I'm not at that point in my business to be able to afford to do that. But
But
just,
then, like for me, like if it's like taking your kid to school, find a friend, ask at
yeah,
school. Like, yeah, maybe you have to get out of your comfort zone to do that. But there's probably somebody that lives closely, and maybe you don't. Maybe you compromise, and it's you take them to school and they pick them up. Right? It doesn't have to be like an all-in thing. And we're the
yeah,
same. Like there'll be weeks where we look at our week and it's like we are way too busy to cook food this week, and if we know we're going to end up living on absolute crap, and then our bodies are going to feel crap for eating crap. So there's an Italian lady, and she makes like all these home cooked meals in our area. I know. So we just like buy all these home cooked meals from her.
Yeah. I need that number.
It's so good.
I mean, and this is the whole thing. I think sometimes we can get so tunnel visioned, like when we're working, like what you're saying, in the business, like it's that tunnel vision. It actually stops us from expanding and looking outside of the box of what other opportunities are coming in as well.
It does. And it's because the box is so well created. It's designed to keep you in that box. And as a business owner, right, you can be a business owner without being an entrepreneur, because you're an entrepreneur when you start to live outside of that box. If you're still in that box, as far as I'm concerned, you're a business owner. You're thinking the same as everybody else. And yes, you can grow a business like that, but it's a bloody grind. Like, it is an absolute grind. I talk to so many people that own a cleaning and yard or a yard maintenance business, and they are so unhappy.
Yeah.
They are like, how are you so happy? I'm like, well, I actually don't work in it.
Yeah.
I don't work in it. I only work in it if somebody's sick. Like, I've never cleaned a house for it. I've never actually, I did go out and blow leaves one time. But like that, like, I don't work in the business, right? That's how I'm so happy. I
Yeah.
find ways so that I don't have to. I make sure there's enough profit in there to pay a business manager to do the job that I don't want to do. I make sure there's enough profit in there to give me back the money that I need to get back. I create different revenue streams that bring us in more money, like selling our cleaning products and things like that, finding companies that are okay for me to relabel them to sell them as our own, then turning that into an e-com brand. Like that's the type of creativity you get to have as an entrepreneur, not as a business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's been like a real buzzword. Like, I'm started a business, I'm an entrepreneur. However, there's, like you're saying, it's thinking outside the box. And a lot of people, like, they've always said to me, oh, well, how do you make money? Because it's a very non-traditional business. I'm like going, oh my goodness, let me tell you. Like, and I get excited by it because it is so non-traditional. It's not opening up a storefront. Like everything is pretty much online except for my events. So
I own 5 businesses, and I still think sometimes, how do I make money?
yeah.
Like, where does all the money come from? I'm like, I'm actually not sure sometimes.
Yeah.
And like, and it's really tricky. But the box, like, so my husband Nick now hasn't worked for a company because he's a very qualified person. So he's a high voltage electrician and an electrical engineer. And he homeschools our child, like doesn't do his trade at all, holds the electrical license for our electrical business, and that's it. And it's really interesting because so he's been out of basically a normal job for 18 months, and he still really struggles with living outside of that box, not having this set wage every single week, this time you have to get up and start work, this time you finish work, working 5 days a week. We work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We homeschool Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We get to have fun and do different things on those other days. And he's still now 18 months on feels guilty about that. I'm like, you don't need to feel guilty, but that's how well constructed the box is, right? And that box is designed because we do need people in it, right? As business owners, as entrepreneurs, we need people to stay inside of that box, and that's okay. But if you are a business owner that wants to be successful, that box is not for you.
Yeah, absolutely. How much has it been also stepping into like that leadership role too? Because I feel like as an entrepreneur, you have to be the leader to, do you know what I mean? Like you've got those people in the box, you've got all of your staff, like your talent, like all those sort of people working for you.
Yeah.
Not everybody is a natural leader. Has that been a process for you to learn, or was that something that you had?
I think I'm naturally a leader. Like even at school, I was like house captain of sport, and I was on student council. I think I've always been somebody that people can trust and go to. I've never been a very judgmental person. So I think that helps as a leader. I'm there to listen to you, hear you, understand you, and then find the best way forward for you. So for me as a leader, I think that's been a really natural position. And I think that's helped me progress in my corporate career quite quickly before going out on my own because of those natural leadership abilities. But I think it's important that leadership, there's so many different leadership styles, right? But at the end of the day, it's really about listening. It's active listening. As a leader, all you need to do is listen, right? Don't have any preconceived idea in your mind about what you're going to say to that staff member or, you know, the new client or whatever. You have to listen and adapt whatever you were about to say to suit what they're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you also find that the listening also is not listening to other people, but also listening to your own intuition?
Oh, yeah. So I always get asked, if you could go back to the start, what's one thing you would do differently? Like as a biz, like from starting on my own. And it's listening to myself. I felt like for the first really 4 to 6 months when I went out on my own, I spent all of the time listening to all of the experts. And I'm sure they are experts, but I didn't see myself as the expert because I was new into this business, into business coaching. Although I'd helped grow other businesses and been paid to do it, for some reason I felt completely underqualified. So I was listening to these experts, and I did this for about 4 to 6 months and then realized, why am I just not doing what I do best and just implement what I know works? So that's literally what I did. And it changed everything for me. I was like, no, you have to listen to your intuition. And you might call it whatever you want to call it. But I believe, honest, like for me, I always say it's my intuition. It's listen to your gut. Like if it says no, it's no. And people, like, I think the other thing is, in business, we talk about needing to be uncomfortable, right? When you're growing, you're constantly feeling uncomfortable. And it's hard when it's like, but how uncomfortable do you need to feel before? What is the difference? And I think this is where you need to listen to yourself. So, like, there's this uncomfortable feeling, and you might feel sick in your stomach, but you also know it's good for you. Like for me this morning, it was like getting up and going for a walk. I was like, no, like I was uncomfortable about it. My eyes were tired. I was like, I just wanted to sleep. But then this other part of me was like, no, you know, you're going to feel better later. Just get out of bed, go for the walk. Right. So it's that. If it's like, no, and no part of you is saying it's a good idea. Every part of you is telling you it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. You cannot get more simple than that. Listen, it is a bad idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the part that, as a business owner, I always say to people, if you want the best personal development, go start a business because you're going to learn so much more about yourself.
About yourself. Yeah, I'm not the person. Yeah.
That, you just sit there like going, where did that come from? Like, there's parts of me I'm like going, oh, that's interesting. Because you constantly evolve with it as well. What's one of the biggest things that you've learned about yourself being in business?
Yeah. So I would have said before, I'm not a creative person, which is really interesting. I've just spent all morning writing marketing emails for a client. So it's really interesting, right? Because I am still very data driven and I love numbers and I always have. But I would have said I wasn't creative, and I am actually extremely creative. But creativity doesn't have to mean that you're good at art or you can draw well. There's different types of creativity. And I think just stepping into who I am, because when I first started, I had like just worked from home at a desk in our lounge room, basically. And every day I would get up and get like fully dressed in my makeup, like everything as if I was going into the office. And I did that for almost a year. And then I saw my friend and she was in a t-shirt in one of her videos. And I know that she was making 7 figures. And I was like, how are you wearing a t-shirt? Like, do you not feel like you're not, how does that make you the expert? She's like, they're not buying from me because of what I'm wearing. They're buying from me because of my expertise. I was like, why am I getting up every day wearing clothes that are so uncomfortable? It like absolutely made no sense to me at all. I was like, No, you just have to be who you are, and people will either love it or hate it. And if they hate it, that's okay, because there's so many other people that will love it. And if you only work in Australia, like I work all around the world, but if you work in Australia, there's 25 million people. You're going to tell me like most people only need to reach their ultimate dream mega goal, like 100,000 people. You're going to tell me 100,000 people aren't going to like you out of 25 million? Like,
Exactly, exactly. It's like the dating thing. Yeah, there's plenty of other fish in the pond, and I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. Like, there's plenty of clients out there. I mean,
yeah,
that's one other thing that I've learned is the fact that as I've grown the business too, like my clients have changed and evolved as well. And I think a lot of people get stuck going, oh, well, I started this business for this particular person, but you've grown and evolved. So
yeah.
why doesn't your business grow and evolve as well?
Yeah, a different, you always attract different type of people. I remember right at the start, for some really strange reason, I just attracted a lot of holistic businesses. Like I have no idea why. But that hasn't like, and that has changed for me. Like now it's much broader than that. And I never worked with ecom brands, and now I do. But I didn't have that experience before, right? So my experience has changed. So then it changes. And I always tell people, I'm like, what offer you create or service or product,
Yeah.
what you create right now is not going to be the same in 6 months, especially if you've never gone to market with it. Because as
Yeah.
soon as it hits market, if it needs to deliver, and it usually doesn't. So you're
Yeah.
quickly adapting to what everyone actually needs, not what you wanted to give them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the more that you start exploring the different opportunities as well, that also allows more to come in as well. Because like you can stay in that one lane, but as we were talking before, the more times that you expand, you're actually creating different either revenue streams or different creative outlets, even for yourself, and also to allow for different clients to come into your business.
Yeah, definitely. And this is like, and at the end of the day, all I've ever helped is small business. Right. And it's very interesting because I help small business in coaching, I help small business in marketing, and then in cleaning yard, handyman, electrical, all those. Everyone we help are usually mum and dads, and a lot of them own weird small businesses.
Yeah.
It's very interesting how that has translated across everything that we do. It's just average people trying
Yeah.
to do extraordinary things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What's been one of the biggest things that you've seen in a shift within the business world in the last couple of years?
Yeah, so I think I I don't think it's quite happened yet. I think the grasp of AI, people are starting to maybe get on board. And what I find interesting is people think that it's new, but it's not new. Like it's been around for at least 5, going on 10 years, realistically. And we were already using it, right?
Yeah.
Before ChatGPT came out. So to the point that we have our own language model. So it's really interesting to see that people are now getting on board. And I think that people are underestimating the impact it's actually going to have in the next, before 2030. And as business owners, if you're not already looking at it and like applying it to your business, you're going to be left behind because you're going to be paying for people that you don't need to pay for, which allows other businesses to reduce their costs, right? So
Yeah.
you're going to need to keep increasing your costs when other people are going to be reducing their costs, and that's going to affect your business flow, right? It's automatically going to affect your cash flow. Like I talk to other marketing agency owners at the moment, and they're like, how do you keep everything so cheap? And I'm like, well, most of our systems are actually automated. And I had a client reach out to me recently, and she said, every marketing agency we go to for email marketing is using like AI, and we can tell, like when we were reading it back, we can tell. Do you use AI? And I emailed her back and I said, look, I'm not going to lie to you. Of course we use AI. The difference is we've built our own language model. We've been using it for 3 years. It adapts to us. It sounds like me, like you would have no idea. And she was like, oh, can you send me 2 examples? I was like, yeah, of course. Send them through. She was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that is through an AI system. I was like, yeah. Like, I'm not going to lie and be like, oh no, we write everything by hand. How do you think we keep it so cheap?
Yeah.
But you have to adapt.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, they get stuck with the change. Like it is making them uncomfortable.
Mm,
However, like you're saying, like I mean, I look back going like when I was in school, like there was no like we learnt on typewriters. Like there was no internet back then. Like there's all these things, and you're like going, oh well, you've quickly adapted to it. So as human beings, we actually do have the ability to adapt to change.
and I think you have to, because even I have a client at the moment, and her and I have been arguing. She really wants printed brochures she owns
Yeah,
a cleaning business, for a cleaning business. And we did the costing, and to get the brochures written up, it's like $10,000. And then to get them, you've got to get them printed on top of that. I was like, that's a lot of like marketing budget going on printed materials. Like if you took that $10,000 and invested it differently in digital marketing, that you can almost guarantee results. Like,
yeah,
what is this printed brochure going to bring in?
yeah,
Right. So you've really got to weigh it up. But that's changed. She's been in a cleaning business for 15 years. So they've always had printed brochures
yes.
that bring in commercial work. I'm like, yeah, but that's not how they do it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting because I mean, with the magazine, like we've gone back to printing because our clients actually want a physical copy to
Yeah,
show them. But we don't go and just print massive amounts. We're printing on demand because I don't want to waste paper. Um, but it is now like going to a digital version was the best decision that we ever did.
exactly. Like, and it's just change. You have to be ready and at the forefront. So there's I can't think what it's called, but basically it's a Tesla bot. It's a robot. They're on Gen 3, right?
Yeah,
They've said they'll lease them back to the market by 2030. So you'll be able to buy these Tesla bots. So as a cleaning business, we can hire these robots, deliver them, and they'll clean.
yeah,
We have to be on the forefront of that, because
yeah,
the reality is, if we're not, our clients are just going to start trying to get hold of these bots, and then we won't have a business.
yeah,
What do we do?
yeah,
Like, we already have electric vacuums and electric lawnmowers and things like that. Like, you have to be really innovative within your business and constantly ahead of everything, which can be really hard when you're in the daily grind. It's not hard when you're working on it.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. I adore you. You know how much I love what you're doing. We're really excited because you're actually coming on our cover of our next magazine. So stay tuned. We're going to be sharing more about that with you. Before we go, I've got a couple of questions that I would love to ask you. And this is what we also ask at our meetup because think that the most thing that business owners forget to do is celebrate.
Yeah.
So what's something that you've achieved in the last 30 days that you have forgotten to celebrate?
I never forget to celebrate.
I know
I
you're good
honestly
at
don't.
it.
I'm really good at celebrating. I remember when
Oh,
we first started, we
yeah,
used to celebrate with every single sign up we had. And then it got to a point, it was like, okay, we'll celebrate when we get this many. And then we had to change the thing. Something we have achieved though, in the last 30 days is we've signed our second biggest client ever, which was for $66,000. So it was a really great sign up. And we didn't celebrate in the way we usually would, because then we found out on Thursday last week that she was actually signing up. Because I'm another person that I've been told many a times that will sign up and then they don't, right? They just do not sign up for whatever reason, but they don't. So I don't celebrate until after they've paid. I'm
yes,
like, I'll celebrate after they've paid,
yes,
once they're actually committed.
yes,
Um, but yeah, so that happened on Thursday, and then I was away Friday running the workshop at events all weekend. So I probably haven't really had a chance to really sit
yeah,
down and be like, wow, that's our second biggest client ever. That's incredible. That's where we're at, to have like to even have clients that are at that type of level, when we first started. It's such an empowering position to be in.
yeah, absolutely. What's I'm the same with you. Like I actually now do not celebrate unless the money's in the bank because
Yeah.
I'm the same. I'm just like I've had my hopes like worked up, going, oh my God, and then yeah, that disappointment then actually fuels the negativity spin in your head sometimes too. So
What did I do wrong? Did I say something?
yeah,
Was I too
yeah,
pushy? Was I this? Was I that? And it's like, at the end of the day, it actually probably had nothing to do with you. It's on them.
yeah, very much so,
Yeah.
very much so. Yeah, absolutely. The other question I'd love to know is what's one big goal that you've got for the next 30 days and how can we support you?
Yeah, so my biggest goal at the moment is to get in front of as many people in person as possible. And you're already supporting me by doing that, by speaking in 2 weeks' time. So that's my biggest goal at the moment, is just getting in front of as many people as possible in person, because I feel like we're really missing that person-to-person connection. It drives so much more. So I think I have within 30 days, I have something like 20 in-person events that I'm at. So my voice is already struggling, so this will be fun. But that's my goal in the next 30 days, which is a lot. Like, I'm not comfortable. I'm an introvert, so it's not an easy task for me to be in that many in-person events, I can assure you.
Yeah, no, I love that. And then we've got 5 random questions, which is so that people can get to know you on a more like sort of personal level.
Yeah.
In the morning, are you a tea or coffee person?
I actually do both. So we have like a really fancy coffee machine. I'll have a coffee first. And then I'll usually have at my desk, I will have a teapot and I have a peppermint tea, and it's like a full pot and I just drink it till it's empty.
Yeah, love it. I love it. There's something about peppermint tea, just even the smell of it in the air, like it's so refreshing. So yeah,
Yeah,
I love that. I know that you don't get a lot of spare time, but if you had some spare time, would you prefer to curl up and watch a movie or read a book?
I'm definitely total movie buff, love movies, like, yeah, all day long.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And if you're going to your dream destination, do you prefer to travel by boat or by plane?
Definitely by plane. I don't mind boats, but I know it's plane, because every time somebody's like, when I grow up and get super rich, I want a super yacht. I'm like, no, I just want a private jet. I'm good. So that's why I
Yeah.
know it's a plane. I'm like, I don't want a super yacht. I'm good.
I love that. I love it. And if you were to have a dinner party and you're allowed to invite one special guest from either the past or the present, who would that be?
Yeah, so I would invite Cleopatra. I think that she was a really beautiful and independent woman in a time when women weren't independent, and she experienced so much in a short life. And I would just love to be able to learn why she made those decisions and choices and really went against the grain in so many of them. Yeah, that's who I'd want a dinner party with for sure.
Oh, I love it. I've got goosebumps with that. Oh, that's interesting. I've never thought of that one before. And if you could describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
Epic.
I love it. I love it. You should have seen her on the weekend. Like she wears a crown. I mean, come on, people. Like, yes,
Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
I
Yeah,
am.
I just
Yeah.
you are absolutely, and I'm celebrating you all the time. Like I said, I think you're absolutely amazing with what you do. Thank you so much for sharing your gifts with us here today. We're going to drop all the links of how people can reach out to you below. But Billie, thank you so much, beautiful, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone in person as well at the next event and being on the cover, which I'm super excited about. Just thank you for having me in your circle and a part of your network. Honestly, I'm so appreciative.
Oh, my pleasure, beautiful. Thank you to everyone who has watched this episode. If you've liked it, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, put the comments below, and remember to live life to the fullest every single day. Love and light to you all.